Welcome to the How to Template video. To start, you want to survey the entire area that you're intending to template. Make sure that the area is clean from dirt and debris, or for that matter, any obstacles that can interfere with the templating process. Now that that's done, measure the area from port to starboard and from forward to aft. Always add on an additional foot for good measure. That's going to be the rough measurement for the 6mm plastic template. We recommend using a 6mm plastic that's found in most hardware stores because you can see through the surface and determine if there are any cutouts, including but not limited to deck hatches. Now that we've got the measurements out of the way, what we do is we cut a section for each of those compartments.
Now that I've cut the two halves, being the forward and the aft, I know that one's going to be 2x3. I also know the other one's going to be 6x8. So all you simply do is just get your visqueen, which again I'll recommend being 6mm plastic. You can get it at any Home Depot or any kind of hardware store. And all you do is simply just measure out, knowing that 8 feet is going to be my longest. Simply measure it. Mark it. And all you do is simply cut it. We recommend using industrial scissors just for the simple fact that it's very easy to cut. And as you can see, all you're doing is just cutting straight across your line. Then simply measure again. I knowing that the 2x3, the 3 is going to be the longest part. I'm going to again just mark it. And then again just simply cut. Now that I've cut the length of 8 feet, now I want to go ahead and get the width. Always remember, a little more is better than a little less. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and measure, knowing that it's 6 feet, I'm going to want to go ahead and measure out 7 feet.
This particular piece is for the forward compartment. Now we make it a little bit bigger than what it needs to be. In other words, it's a 2x3. This is larger than a 2x3. Then what we do is we fold it in half. We cut diamonds out of the center of the template.
Go ahead and I want to make sure that I have everything centered. I've also went ahead and put on some knee pads just because I'm going to be on my knees a lot, and obviously the deck can get very, very hard on your knees. I've also pre-tore some pieces of tape so I can manipulate the plastic the way I want with both my hands being free. So the first thing I'm going to want to do, simply lay it out like this. I first take a couple of pieces, and as it's folded, I want to secure it in place. Also pulling it taut to keep it straight. Once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and grab one side and pull over. And I'm not concerned right now with how it's laying on one side or the other. Right now, my main concern is making sure that it's in the center, like so. Then what I'm going to do, where I cut the diamonds earlier, I'm going to go ahead and secure in place with tape. And as I move down toward the back part of the boat, I'm going to continue taping in my diamonds. Always remember to keep pulling the plastic to keep it taut. Like so. Now I know I've got my centerpiece all secured and ready to go. Now what I'm going to start doing is working my way from the center to the exterior part of the flooring. As I move, as you can see here, I'm going to continually cut triangles to keep it secured to the floor and keep it flat. Okay, now that you can see where I've laid everything out, I've worked my way from the center, working out forward. I've went ahead and cut some of the excess, allowing anywhere from an inch or two on either side. So when you do your final drawing, you'll have that available to you in case you need more. As you can see also, I've went ahead and I've made more cuts to keep this piece nice and flat. So when we cut the DECKadence, It'll fit in here nice and snug, like as if you got it from the factory. Now, as we talked about earlier, you want to make sure that you cut a little longer, as we talked about, because as you can see, this radius pulls in, and you're going to get an extra 2 or 3 inches, as you can see how it bowls. Don't worry about that, because what you're going to do is what we call a fan cut. And as you cut down, you can see how everything just molds right to the movement and the bend of the boat. Again, don't worry about overcuts or anything like that. As I talked about earlier, you want to save these pieces. Right now, we're just concentrating on making the template perfect for a mold. And as you can see, as I fan, you see how everything moves into place. Again, make sure that you tear enough tape, because once you put it where you want it, you're going to want to go ahead and secure it with the tape along the sides. Make sure that you leave enough so when you draw your pen, that it gives a perfect outline of your pattern. Yeah, I've done that. So as I go through here, I'll take the pen and I'll draw right along what we're looking to do later. I always like to mark, and we suggest that you mark as well, exactly what you've got going on. So we know that this is the top, so you want to write in big letters, top. The last thing you want to do is measuring it and putting it on your DECKadence and it being upside down. Then what I want to do is I want to do forward, port, starboard. And in the back, I want to put aft. So now I know when I pull this up, after I've traced everything, I'll know exactly how to lay it on top of the DECKadence. So as you can see, I got everything marked, I got everything cut, I've got everything pushed out to the sides, I've got it about as flat as I can get it. There's 2 ways that you can do this with a hatch. There's what we call a 3-way cut, where you can just completely lay the DECKadence down over the top of your hatches. Remember, the one thing about DECKadence is that you can literally just pick it right up if you need to get into your hatch. But if you don't want to do that, we do what they call a 3-cut. You'll notice that the hinge is here. You're going to want to mark each corner like so. And here you'll write hinge, because you'll know where the hinge is going to be laid out. Now, again, if you want to, we suggest that you lay the DECKadence over, but if not, and you need to mark it, for your seat posts, exactly the same. I always like to come in just a little bit, maybe 1/8 or so, because you can always retrim. We strongly recommend that you also go ahead and put the name, the type of boat, and the year, because somebody else out there might need the template and might be able to use it, and we might be able to also put it with the DECKadence family. We've drawn everything out with the pen, we've marked everything accordingly. Now all we do is just simply pull it all up, taking your time so the tape doesn't tear the template. As you can see, there's our template for the bow of the boat. So once you lay your pattern down, you want to go ahead and start trimming everything. But before we start to trim, remember the hatches that we had drawn earlier? All you're going to do now is take a straight edge and you're going to connect the lines. So now you know you're going to have a nice straight line for your hatches. We suggest just laying the DECKadence over it and not worrying about it, because DECKadence, one of the things that makes it do what it does is we can actually lift it up without securing it. But if it's something that you really just have to have and you know that you're going to be going in and out of your hatches quite a bit, you'll do the 3-cut. So you'll see where I've marked X's, that is not to be cut, and you'll cut on the 3 sides as you saw when we drew them out earlier. Good news, I just got my DECKadence in, so let's go take a look. So as you can see, when you see the box, It's going to come with the color that you've ordered. We ordered Luna Silver. It's going to give you the size, which is a 6x8, which is what we had ordered. I also got the 2x3, but I also ordered a little bit more this time because I'm going to also show you what you can use DECKadence for a little bit later on in the program. Actually got the template. I'm actually going to start with the 2x3. I've actually rolled the DECKadence over onto the spring side, so now I have the rivet back on the back, okay? Remember how we talked about top and bottom? You want to make sure that the top is facing down, like so. And then all you do is simply secure it with some tape and trace it out. Once you flip it over, then this should fit nice and snug right into the bow of the boat. I also left it maybe a little bit wider just so you can trim it to make sure that it fits in there nice and snug. Okay, now that I got the big piece, the 6x8, as you can see, again, we've flipped it over onto the squirrely side of the DECKadence, the wiry side, and now we have the rivet end on the back. So again, remember, when you flip your pattern, you want to make sure the top is on the bottom so you can cut it out exactly the way it needs to be cut to fit inside the boat. You can see that I've gone ahead and I've went ahead and traced everything out. So now, normally we don't cut the hatches, but for this particular instance, for the consumer that's going to be using their hatches for quite a bit, we're going to go ahead and do the front one for you just to show you how to do that. But again, we don't suggest it. So as you can see right here, I've marked the X's, and that's going to tell me where the hinges are, so I know that I don't want to cut there. So now I'm going to do a 3-cut. So I'm literally going to start here and go all the way around, just following the lines that I did on of the hatch. I know I just want to roll it and then be done with it. So you only want to go an inch or so, just so it'll see the crease and you'll be able to flip it over without it hinging. So, and as I did earlier, I'm going to go ahead and just trace it. Okay. Now you can see where I've trimmed out for the hatch, and we've gone ahead and we're going to go ahead and cover the back part, the back hatch. And now I'm going to start cutting the pattern that I've traced. So when you're cutting, another little tip that we like is to kind of put it at an angle, and that makes the top a little proud, so it'll fit nice and snug into the boat configuration. Now, as you can see, we've gone ahead and we've finished the pattern, tracing it, cutting it. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take it and we're going to place it in the boat. The reason why we cut a little bit smaller around the circle is I want to be able to trim it to make it exact around the seat post. Okay, so again, you want to cut it just a little bit short, so when you set it in there, then you can go ahead and trim it with your scissors or your X-Acto knife and make it perfect.